Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality back with you here today, and I'm going to talk to you about something that it seems like is all the rage and discussion in these circles lately, and that is the Netflix series director, it says here on this Breitbart article, director defends casting because you can see that she decided to make a Cleopatra series, and this is what she made Cleopatra look like. And, well, if you know anything at all about history, you know that Cleopatra did not look like this, and this is the director. So the Breitbart article we're going to go through here, and I come at these race swaps in terms of like movie and historical characters maybe from a slightly different perspective than the people in the circles I tend to listen to go with. So I'm going to go over that. So let's just go through the Breitbart article, and then I have what Cleopatra really looked like up here. So the director, this lady here, says she defends the casting. Why do some people need Cleopatra to be white? Well, because she was. Simple as that. Okay, so, but let's go through the article anyway. It says the director of Netflix's Queen Cleopatra docudrama series is defending the casting of a black actress as the Egyptian queen who was not black, calling her decision a political act. Well, yeah, obviously it is. Why shouldn't Cleopatra be a melanated sister, and why do some people need Cleopatra to be white? Director Tina Garavi wrote in an essay published Friday in Variety. Again, as I said at the very beginning, because Cleopatra was not black, I mean, this is not even a debatable thing. She just wasn't. She was, well, first of all, let's just go through the fact that we have actual, like, sculptures of what she looked like, and to give you an idea, this is what she looked like. I don't think you'd see any black features here, okay? But reconstructing, her history in terms of her lineage or ancestry, for people that don't know, she was a descendant of Ptolemy, who was one of Alexander the Great's generals, and after Alexander the Great died, his kingdom was essentially split between his four top generals, one of them being Ptolemy. He took Egypt, and from there to Cleopatra was about it was a few hundred years, and during that time, there's some evidence that the Macedonians, which is what Cleopatra was, which is Greek, that they interbred with the Egyptians, but I mean, like, it's like circumstantial evidence. And from a book I just finished actually within the last few months was a book about Augustus, the first emperor of Rome, which, if you know anything about history, Cleopatra and Augustus were contemporaries, because Augustus basically was a contemporary of Mark Antony and Julius Caesar. And essentially he was the one who took the reins of Rome from Caesar. So Cleopatra, as everybody knows, was a lover of both Caesar and Mark Antony, and then got into the shit with with Augustus before he was known as Augustus. And so they all lived around the same time. So and that period of Roman history is exceedingly well documented, and nobody has described her as being dark-skinned. But at the same time, again, the book that I read said that they don't really know what her mother was. Obviously, her father's lineage was the Macedonian line, but her mother, they said her mother could have been an Egyptian. So, showing that, this is another picture here of what Cleopatra may have looked like, so you can see she's got probably more of an olive complexion, and that's fine. I mean, she was, where she was growing up was in Egypt, so she probably was pretty tan. But we're not going to go through this entire article here. We're going to go back to the Breitbart one in a second, but it says right here, exactly what I said, that she is of Macedonian Greek ethnicity. So why this director's coming here and saying, like, why does she need to be white? The fact is that she was. The director, saying that you changed this just for political reasons. So what I would recommend is people going to watch the trailer for the series, because it's amazing the gaslighting that's going on in it, as well as like there's one person in it. I don't know what this person's expertise was or anything, but it sounds like they just pulled this lady out of like off the street and just were like, hey, what do you think about Cleopatra? And she says something to the effect of like, you know, like her grandmother told, is an older lady too. So she's probably like a grandmother at the age she was at. But this lady, she said that her grandmother told her that no matter what they tell you in school, Cleopatra was black. And it was like, but no. And maybe at that time they really didn't know. I mean, this was also like, that might have been something like 50 or 60 years ago, maybe longer that was happening. But it's like, I can't imagine like my parents or even my grandma, who was the only grandparent I really ever knew, and coming to me and saying something like, hey, no matter what they tell you about X historical character, they were this. And it's like, okay, just because someone's from Africa doesn't make them black. Okay, if you know, again, anything about the history of the world, you'll know that there were more than black people in Africa and have been for thousands of years. Okay, again, this isn't a debatable thing. This is just a matter of fact. And there's nothing to get upset about. It's just you're bending history. So let me finish going through this article, comment on it, and then I'm going to go through what I think about race swaps in terms of films and things like that. And I think I may have gone over this in a previous video. I honestly, I don't really remember, so I'll just do it again. But if I did, it was a long time ago. So continuing on with the article, it says Queen Cleopatra, which begins streaming May 10th, is drawing mounting criticism over its casting, especially in Egypt, where the show is being denounced as revisionist history, which it is. And I don't know if this article is going to go into it, but there is a lawyer in Egypt, I think, is suing Netflix over this as well. So there's that. So article goes on, says, as Breitbart News reported, the criticism has become so intense that the streamer turned off comments on social media posts following the trailer for the series. Yeah, if you go to YouTube and look at the trailer, comments don't exist. They have been turned off. So it says the 4-part series, which is executive produced by Jada Pinkett Smith, stars British actress Adele James as Queen Cleopatra, and features the actress sporting a full afro, which the real Cleopatra almost certainly didn't have. I should say certainly didn't have. Yeah, no, she would not have had that. It says Queen Cleopatra is part of a larger woke Hollywood trend of blackwashing, in which black actors are cast in roles of real-life white historical figures, often royalty, and they're going to go through a few right here, which I was just thinking of at the same time. Says other examples include Netflix's upcoming Queen Charlotte series, which features a black actress as the German-born British queen who was married to King George III, and the AMC series Anne Boleyn, which starred Jodie Turner-Smith as the second wife of King Henry VIII. In her essay, Tina Garavi blamed the attacks on Cleopatra on misogynoir, the woke term describing prejudice against black women. Okay, so you made up a word, the woke people, to describe this, and it's not a prejudice against the actress. The actress just took a job. It's not her fault. Okay, she just took a job. She was offered money. She said, cool, it'd be cool to play this. Fine, yeah. No issue with the actress whatsoever herself. But, and I guess this is where my own commentary and my own perspective on this comes in. So I guess instead of waiting till the end of the article, I'm just going to go over it now, is that, like, if you're going to cast someone that we know doesn't look like someone from history at all, if you're going to market it as maybe something that's like historical fiction or alternate universe history or even fantasy, yeah, I got no problem with that. Go ahead and cast whoever the hell you want in whatever that role you want to put them in. I don't care. I mean, you also should be doing it the other way around. So it should be something like, and I'm going to go with the memes that are out there and use those. Like, say, like, you know, Anthony Hopkins is going to play Martin Luther King Jr. or Ryan Gosling is going to be Black Panther. Like, you have to start doing that too, because you notice this only goes in one direction, and it's only black. Like, what about Hispanics or Asians or literally any other ethnicity out there? How come no one's replacing a white character with one of them? Like that, that just doesn't make sense. So my perspective on that is, on all this, is just, you know, if it's something that's a fantastical type thing, sure, go ahead and do whatever you want. But if you're doing it a real world thing, you should stay as close to the actual thing as humanly possible. Okay, so I'd have no problem even if they were to say, like, we want to find specifically a Macedonian Greek or a Greek person to play Cleopatra. But then, you know, there'd be an outcry of people being like, oh my God, why, you know, Like, why do they pick a white person? Because, again, the people who would be saying that are only looking at it in terms of a racial lens because they can't think further than Africa equals black. That's as far as their brain power goes. Okay, instead of looking at the actual history. And trust me, there are plenty of people from history that don't look the way you think they did. Okay, that come from places where you might think, oh, they came from here, they may look like this, when it's like, no, they actually may have looked a completely different way than what you think. Okay, and aren't there, like, there's got to be out there many stories of actual black queens, like, even in Africa, I would imagine, for sure, doing stuff. Okay, like, where are their stories? Why don't we hear anything about those? I know, you know, a lot of stories from Africa were not written down, so they're maybe not as easy to find. You know, they were more a verbal culture, so it's like, but they still exist. You should still be able to find them and still make those characters, you know. And this goes to something I believe Eric July actually said. Young Ripa is his YouTube channel. You should definitely go subscribe to him. But he said it's because these people only see value in white characters, so they make someone black so that you have to associate that the value with now the black character, you know, because these people like this Tina Garavi, who I would think is an actual racist, you know, that's why she's casting a black person as a white person, is because she's like, people out there only are going to be able to see the name and associate it with a white person, but now we're putting a black person there, so the black person has that agency. And it's like, well, that is kind of racist. Like, you don't think, like, if it was some other person that, you know, some other black queen that she would, you know, that people maybe haven't heard of, that she'd be able to stand on her own. If you tell a good story, nobody's going to care what the person looks like. Excuse me. Nobody should care anyway. You know, in my opinion. But let's get back to the article, because there's still a little bit to go here. And she says, continuing off this misogynoir word that isn't an actual word, it says, it's almost as if we don't realize that misogynoir still has an effect on us today. We need to liberate our imaginations and boldly create a world in which we can explore our historical figures without fearing the complexity that comes with their depiction, she wrote. Garavi appears to acknowledge that the real Cleopatra wasn't black, but stops short of saying she was white. Says, we can safely say Cleopatra was Egyptian, she wrote, later adding, okay, but she wasn't even Egyptian. I mean, she was from Egypt, but her heritage, her ethnicity was not Egyptian. Okay? I mean, that's like, I have a friend that lives down the street from me. Okay? He's first generation American because his parents are Polish, like through and through, 100% Polish. You know, and he can sit here and say, like, that'd be like saying like he's Polish, and it's like, no, he's American. His ethnicity is Polish, but he's an American. Okay, it's the same thing as that. Like, Cleopatra was not Egyptian. She was from Egypt, but her ethnicity was most certainly not that. So the director continued and wrote, says, what the historians can confirm is that it is more likely that Cleopatra looked like Adele than Elizabeth Taylor ever did. You know, that's up for debate. I'd probably say Elizabeth Taylor is actually probably not that far off from what Cleopatra actually looked like, especially if, you know, the photo that we're going by is this. Okay. Anyway, says Adele James recently hit back at the critics, telling them, if you don't like the casting, don't watch the show. And I love that perspective from just people in any industry. I've seen it from people in the comic book industry. There's a quote of Kelly Sue DeConnick, who's a writer, saying, if you don't like my politics, don't buy my book. And people think that's like some sort of edgy statement on the left, whereas someone like me is going to look at that and go, okay, I won't. And it's part of the reason why, you know, getting off topic for a second, the comic book industry has been destroyed in the last few years, and why it's failing is because of people like that. Now you have, coming back to this story, this actor saying, if you don't like the casting, don't watch the show, and people are going to go, okay. You know, I'm sure if they come out with ratings, there's going to be, I think the ratings might actually be pretty good, because people are going to hate watch it to see exactly what it's about. Okay, they're not actually going to watch it because they're genuinely interested in, like, I want to know the history behind this, because it's not history. It's a pseudo-history. Okay, because they are selling this as a documentary, and it's false. Like, your whole, like, once you say that this is supposed to be based on the truth, and your main character isn't, like, doesn't look like what or it has not, like, doesn't look anything like what the actual person did, you're already selling a false bill of goods. Okay. So, Yeah, and don't attack this actress. She had nothing to do with it. She just took a role. Don't do that. But I don't like that's the last part of the article. But yeah, I don't like the fact that it's like, if you don't like it, don't watch it, because people are like me are just go, okay. And I don't have Netflix anyway, and I have no interest in having Netflix, so I won't be watching it at all. But yeah, I mean, we're done with the article here. But again, people are going to get all hot and bothered about the fact that, like, again, there's a race swap casting. But the people who do stuff like this also don't look beyond that and see that there are other castings that have happened out there of people of the same race that people have taken exception to. They seem to just completely ignore that. For example, I remember when the Constantine movie came out, which is a movie I genuinely like, and it's Keanu Reeves playing John Constantine. And if you know anything about what John Constantine actually looks like, John Constantine is a blonde-haired British guy. Keanu Reeves is obviously not either of those things. He's a black-haired American, like, surfer dude type. So he's nothing like that. And I remember people had a problem with that. And even I was one of the people that was like, he's not John Constantine. Like, I like Keanu. He's not John Constantine. And I can't remember who Constantine was based on off the top of my head. But I mean, still. But you see, there's two people who are the same ethnicity, if you will, that people had a problem with. And I remember going back further than that. When they made the first Harry Potter movie, people had a problem with Daniel Radcliffe being cast because Daniel Radcliffe has blue eyes and Harry Potter has green eyes. So, and an expectation here, like, these folks on the left look at things, again, explicitly through a racial lens. It's just, if someone white was changed to black, you're a racist if you say that that's bad or you have a problem with it. It's not racist, okay? First of all, you don't know what that word means if that's the way you're using it. Figure that shit out. Come back to me when you actually know the meaning of the word that you're using, okay? But this happens all the time, okay? When you have popular characters that are described a particular way, so we know what they look like, and then you're looking up at the screen, in an adaptation, and that person looks nothing like what was explained to you, or there's a very prominent feature of a character that this adaptation doesn't have, people are going to be pissed about that. Okay? I've even heard people say that, like, about the Batman and Spider-Man movies, that nobody's played like Peter Parker correctly or Bruce Wayne correctly. I'm talking about Bruce Wayne and Batman and Peter Parker and Spider-Man as one character each. So this isn't a racial thing. This is people just wanting accurate representations of the things that, of their products that they're reading, their books, their comics, everything. They just want the characters to look like what they know. Okay. And if you want more minorities in those roles, then put them in, that are going to be adapted, put them in the actual, like, products that you're making, but this agency thing of, like, we have to keep taking from white characters and make them anything other than white is just like that. Like, you guys need to find some agency in the fact that there are people that existed in the history of the world, okay, that were not white, that did a lot of things that were really good, okay, and that have a lot of interesting stories, and you can tell those stories, just that you don't want to, okay? That's not the fans' problem. That's your problem. We're not the ones making this content. You are, okay? So I guess that's my perspective on it. I don't expect everybody to agree with me, but I'm not a fan of just this race swapping just for shits and giggles because we can sort of attitude. But yeah, I guess that's really all I have to say on this. I'm not sure I can really expound on this anymore without just continuing to blabber. So, let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm interested to hear what everybody has to say, see what your perspective is on this. Like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.